This is 1000. 1000's not only an exceptional artist, but he's also one of my favorite YouTubers. Ever since I started watching Peter's videos years ago, I always thought it would be the coolest thing to be able to collaborate with him. But then I always thought, what chance do I really have of doing that? One day though, I was watching an episode of the Slooniverse podcast with 1000 when he said something that started to get me thinking.
I love seeing my stuff rendered in 3D, and I love seeing like toy figurines of my stuff, but when it actually comes to me sculpting, that is one thing I have not cracked.
You got some fumbling hands, I guess.
Yeah.
And at that moment, it clicked. Right now, 1000 has never heard of me, but if I can carve a good enough looking sculpture of one of his characters, I might have a small chance of being able to collaborate with him. My thought is, if I can make a good looking sculpture and send it to him, he might be interested in painting it. This is one of 1000's illustrations called the Archer. Now this is also one of my favorite characters that he's drawn, so I think it seems like a natural fit to use this as reference for carving the sculpture. Let's do this. Before I started this project, I had no experience with carving a sculpture like this, so I didn't really know what I was doing. I wanted this sculpture to be around 20 inches tall, so I made the pieces slightly oversized. I decided that I wanted to carve this sculpture out of one solid chunk of wood, so the first thing that I needed to do was cut down this big piece of basswood and glue it into a thicker piece for carving. I chose basswood because it's soft enough to carve easily, but it has a nice tight grain, which means it won't warp or crack as much as any other softwoods. After gluing the pieces together, I had some time to think a little bit more about the design of the character. I don't want the sculpture to be a complete copy of 1000's drawing. It feels more appropriate to me to add one or two of my own elements, while the rest of the sculpture is the original drawing. Also, there is one problem with the Archer, which is that it has no legs for me to reference. So I ended up adding the legs myself based on what I think they would look like. I also added the lantern in place of the bow. Because 1000's original Archer drawing is slightly angled, I made these two rough sketches of the front and side profiles of the character, which I then attached to the wood with spray adhesive. It was now time to cut out the outer profile, so I borrowed my dad's electric chainsaw and got to work. Okay, so I'm realizing that this chainsaw is not going to work for this. I've changed the batteries out a couple times and it's still struggling to cut through the basswood. So I texted my friend and fellow woodworking YouTuber Nick Sawyer, and he said I could come over and use his big 14-inch bandsaw. Big shout out to Nick. Definitely go check out his channel, Sawyer Design. There's a link in the description. I later realized the reason that the chainsaw wasn't cutting so well was because I hadn't added any bar oil, but the bandsaw did a much cleaner job anyways. Again, big thank you to Nick Sawyer for not only letting me use his bandsaw, but also for helping me film some of these clips. Okay, so now that we have the basic profile cut out on the bandsaw, it's time to start the shaping process. But I just got a package in the mail, which is gonna make this whole process go a lot easier. The great folks over at Arbortech sent me some of their power carving tools for this project, which, as you'll see, made the shaping process go so much easier. Big thank you to Arbortech for sending me these tools. There's a link in the description to all the Arbortech tools I used. I started off the shaping process with the Arbortech Turbo Plane, which simply attaches to my angle grinder. Before I started carving, I reattached the front and side templates so that I had a better sense of where to remove the material, and I started shaping with the turbo plane. Next, I switch over to the Arbortech Mini Carver, which has a much smaller disc. This allows me to get in hard to reach spaces and also have more fine-tuned control. I basically started by establishing some of the main contour lines in 1000's drawing, like the face and the animal beak of the hood. Okay, so the Arbortech tools did a fantastic job with the rough shaping, but now I need to move on to refining the features. I was planning on using this Dremel for the rest of the shaping process to get all the details, but just by looking at it, you can kind of see my problem. It's a little bit underpowered for what I need to do here. The ideal tool for the job would be a Fordham flex shaft rotary carver, which would set me back around $300, but I think it would be worth it because it would make the rest of the shaping go a lot easier and faster. So let's buy it. Now that we have the right tool for the job, I'm gonna get started carving the details. And for that, I'm going to be using some of these tungsten carbide burrs, which I think will do a really good job. This tool definitely took some getting used to, but after about a half an hour of carving, I think I got the hang of it pretty well. The thing about the Archer character is that it has a lot of layers to it. You have the innermost layer of the face, then you have the hood, and then you have the outer beak. So my goal was really to establish the depth by using these different layers. Okay, so it's the next day, and now that I'm looking at this again, I think the arm is way too far backwards. And I also removed too much material right here. So I think what I need to do now is completely remove this arm and attach another piece of basswood. I really didn't want to have to do this, but I think it's gonna end up looking a lot better once I carve the new arm. It did feel pretty weird completely removing the work that I'd already done, but I knew it had so much more potential for the arm to look better, so I just went for it. One thing that this project definitely taught me is that sometimes it has to look worse before it can start looking better. Now that I'd removed the old arm, I thought why not use 1000's original drawing as the template for the new arm. After I had the rough blocks of wood cut out for the arms, I decided to carve one of them before gluing it onto the body. After letting the glue dry, I got to work shaping the left arm with the mini carver. Because I started this project back in the winter and I mainly work outside, I had to take frequent breaks to let my hands warm back up because using gloves around power tools really isn't the move. Now that I'd refined the shape of the arm a little, I moved on to defining the features of the face and head. This was kind of the primary shaping of the face when I wasn't as good at using the rotary tool, so I'll be coming back to this later. After using this bigger tapered bit, I switched it out with some smaller ones so that I could start defining the eyes and the nose. I decided to take a break from the face because it was proving to be kind of tricky, so I moved on to carving the right hand. This was one of my favorite parts of the sculpture to carve because it went pretty smoothly, and it was also really rewarding to see the details coming together with each individual finger. After rough carving one hand, I felt confident enough to start shaping the left hand, which is the one that will hold the lantern. And for this hand, I really relied on studying my own hand as reference, which ended up being super helpful. I know the likes of Michelangelo heavily studied human anatomy when carving their sculptures, so I figured why not just look down at my own hand and copy what's there. Okay guys, I gotta tell you the truth. That last clip you saw was 2 months ago, and I haven't been able to work on the sculpture since then because of how busy school has kept me, I also wasn't feeling super inspired to keep going because it felt like the more I carved, it wasn't necessarily getting any better, and that was probably just me being hard on myself, but I'm ready to keep going and finish this thing once and for all. So for the shoes, I think I'm just gonna use this reference photo of some Jordan 1s. Obviously they're not gonna be exactly the same, but this is kind of what I'm going for. Jordan 1s are honestly some of the coolest shoes and just all around classics, but I just can't bring myself to spend hundreds of dollars on shoes when I know I could spend that same money buying a new tool. It was at this point that I started the initial sanding process. Little did I know I would spend many more hours and days sanding for this project. Time for a quick cereal break. It's actually cooking out here. It's like 94 degrees. Feels like I've been working on this for such a long time, and I'm honestly ready to be done with it. But sanding it is actually making it look a whole lot better, so I'm pretty happy. That was some good cereal. Let's get back to work. Something that I've been putting off for a while was filling this crack on the face. So for that, I mixed up some of this 2-part epoxy putty, which is sandable afterwards. I also used the epoxy putty to build up some material on the nose and hair, which I was then able to shape with some finer burrs on the rotary carver. When I was carving the underside of these feathers, my carbide burr got stuck and it completely sheared off the flex shaft, and I wasn't prepared to try and do that again, so I ended up removing the feathers altogether. Alright, so I think I've gotten to the point where I feel good enough about my progress that I can reach out to 1000 and send him a picture of the sculpture. The only problem is that his Instagram bio says that he rarely checks his DMs, but it's worth a shot, so let's send him a message. Alright, I just sent him a pretty lengthy DM explaining my idea of him painting it, as well as a picture of the sculpture. But while we wait for him to respond, I'm gonna move on to working on the little lantern that this guy's gonna be holding. I want this lantern to have a flickering flame effect. And since I'm not an electronics wizard, I'm going to be using this little LED flickering candle. This thing runs off of 3 AAA batteries, so hopefully it'll last a while before the batteries have to get changed out. But before we can move any further, I need to cut down both sides of this because it's a little bit too big. I designed this lantern in Illustrator and sent it straight to my Snapmaker machine, which is a laser cutter, 3D printer, and CNC carver. For the lantern, I'm just using the laser cutter module. Big thank you to Snapmaker for sending me this machine. There's a link in the description if you want to check out Snapmaker. After the laser was done cutting it out, I sanded off the burned edges and started work assembling the pieces. You probably guessed that these little acrylic pieces are for the lantern shade, and I wanted them to be slightly opaque, so I sanded the plastic with 320 grit. I wanted to make this lantern shade removable so that it's easy to paint the body of the lantern without getting paint on the plastic. After the plastic lantern shade was done, I started constructing the bottom of the lantern. Okay, time for an update. So I sent my friend Michael Alm a message who coincidentally knows 1000. So Michael said that he could let 1000 know that I messaged him. Big thank you to Michael Alm for helping us get in touch. Go check out Michael's channel, AlmFab, if you haven't. While I'm waiting to hear from 1000, I still need to make the roof of the lantern, so here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to carve this pyramid shape, and it'll sort of have these topographic layers, which I hope will tie in with the explorer theme of the character. Let's make it happen. It was right about now that I took a break and I decided to check my Instagram messages. Okay, so I have some good news. So 1000 just started following me on Instagram. I still haven't heard from him directly, so I'm crossing my fingers, but I think this is a good sign. After carving the block of basswood to a pyramid shape, I drew some organic lines that resembled topography on a map. Alright guys, I have an update. I'm not sure if it's good or bad. 1000 just messaged me back on Instagram. I haven't looked at the message. I don't know if he said yes or no, but I guess we're about to find out. Oh my god. Check it out. Dude, I'm in shock right now. This is a dream come true right here. It's honestly one of the coolest moments I've experienced being a maker. This feels unreal right now. So I just texted him back and we're going to actually do a video call in a couple days. That means I really need to finish the lantern before then, so let's get back to it. What the heck? At this point, I was super stoked that 1000 said yes to my idea and that I would be talking to him in just a few days. I was really hoping that I could have this lantern done in time because the lantern is kind of the last piece that brings everything together. So you're probably wondering, why am I sitting at my desk right now? And that's because I'm about to talk to 1000. Okay, I'm joining the meeting.
Whoa, what's up, dude? How's it going?
How's it going?
Chilling, man. How are you?
Good.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, there, I can see you now.
So what's up, dude? You got something to show me?
Here's the...
Whoa, oh my gosh, it's huge. What the heck? Back it up a little bit. I want to see the full. Oh my gosh, the shoes are so cool. The lantern. Does the actual little candle go in there?
Yeah, hold on, let me...
No way, that is insane. Oh, it lights up. Whoa. Dude, put that sculpture on that little back shelf right there. I just want to look at it in the background. Yeah, now I can see it. Yeah, oh my gosh. Does it stand up pretty good on its own?
Not super well. I'm gonna make a base for it.
Okay.
That it kind of goes onto. So I could make the base where it's like a nice hardwood, where it's just the color of the wood, or I can make it where you can paint it or something like that.
Man, the hardwood would look nice. If it was on the hardwood, it'd be cool if it was removable so that I could like paint it without accidentally getting paint on the base or whatever. It's a full-on collab and I didn't even know we were collabing. I'm glad you gathered up the confidence necessary to make something so epic, because that's super fire, dude. I can't believe it. That's incredible. Okay, you guys, this is absolutely insane. Please make sure you subscribe to Make with Miles, because obviously he's just doing banana stuff over here. Subscribe.
Have a good day, man.
Peace out. Thank you.
Peace out.
Bye.
I'm so grateful that Peter took time out of his day to meet with me. It was great talking to him, and we discussed some final details of the sculpture, like priming the surface and creating the base for it to stand on. One of these last details that I wanted to add to the sculpture was the crown that floats above the character's head. This floating crown is one of 1000's signature elements that he adds to a lot of his characters, so I just knew I had to do it. I also realized that I needed to modify the lantern so the shade doesn't fall out, so I attached this magnet to the roof and added a corresponding magnet to the shade. Right after this, I decided to take some final beauty shots on my white background before I primed the sculpture, and this turned out to be a really bad idea. Oh no, this is not good. Holy shit. The arm completely cracked off. Oh my god, dude. Looks like that's broken too. I just laid this down on the backdrop. It wasn't even standing up. And the wind must have completely pulled it off and fell to the ground. Oh my god. The moment that I spotted the broken sculpture lying on the ground, I thought for sure that I'd ruined it, but after taking a few minutes to calm down, it wasn't quite as bad as I thought. After I'd repaired all the damage from the accident, it was now time to make the hardwood base that Peter and I had talked about. So I started out with some maple cutting board blanks, which have some nice weight to them. I wanted the base to tie in with the sculpture, so I decided to continue the natural topographic theme that I used on the lantern. I ended up using the Arbortech turbo plane for most of the shaping of the base, which really helped me achieve the natural contours I was going for. I wanted it to resemble some sort of terrain that the character might be standing on, but I didn't want it to be too detailed and distract from the sculpture. Now that 1000 himself had said that this was a full-on collaboration, I decided to engrave both of our logos onto the base with my snapmaker. After I glued the two layers together, I thought it would look even better if I filled the laser engraving with some Total Boat epoxy. So the time has finally come for me to put some gesso on the sculpture so that 1000 has a smooth surface to paint on. Let's get started and finish this sculpture once and for all. After a few full days of priming and sanding, it was time to add the very last details like these hoodie strings, which are made out of Sculpey clay with wire inside for strength. This little drill that you've been seeing me use is from Hoto Tools. Thank you to Hoto for sending it to me to try out. It's surprisingly powerful for the size, and I really like the design. I've added a link below if you want to check it out. By now the epoxy on the base had cured, so I sanded it down and added a few coats of wipe-on poly. Now it was time to figure out how the sculpture was going to attach to the base, so I drilled some holes for some 1/4-inch metal rods to go into. Of course, I want to give a big thank you to 1000 for going along with my crazy idea. This project is a dream come true. If you want to see what happens next to the sculpture, definitely go watch 1000's video of him painting it. I'll add a link in the description. Now before we take a look at the final result, I have one favor to ask of you guys. If you enjoyed this video, it would really help me out if you hit the like button. If you want to see my next video, you can subscribe to my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching.